the resolution was arrived at by two DGMOs, but have you just protested with US side for making these claims which we consider are baseless?
Okay, let me take these questions. First, Aditya, your question. You know, we have had several rounds of briefings, and in these briefings, we have also shared with you the kind of linkage we see between the perpetrators of the attack of Pahalgam, in particular, the Resistance Front. Foreign Secretary in his statement also made very clear the kind of evidence that we see, and investigation is going on in this particular matter. You would have seen that TRF had taken responsibility, and then second time again, second day, twice they had taken responsibility, and thereafter, possibly at the behest of their handlers, they rolled it back. But TRF is one organization which is a front of the Lashkar-e-Taiba, and you would understand and perhaps be in the knowledge of it that we have been pursuing listing of TRF in the United Nations, by the United Nations Security Council, by the Sanctions Committee, UNSC 1267 Sanctions Committee. I'm not privy to what was shared 2 hours back, but for sure we'll update you on as to how the investigation progresses in this matter. Mega on UNSC 1267 Sanctions Committee. Yes, over the last 2 years or so, 23, 24, we have been sharing information with the United Nations Security Council, the monitoring team of the Sanctions Committee, as to why the terrorist TRF, which is the front for Lashkar-e-Taiba, should be listed as a terrorist entity. We will be also, in few days' time, we will be sharing more details in this regard, and hopefully Security Council 1267 monitoring team will take strong note of what we present, what we file, and take due action against that is required. Rishabh, on your question regarding the interview that the Pak Foreign Minister gave. In the last week, as a result of Operation Sindoor, Pakistan has seen its terror centers in Bahawalpur, Murudke, Muzaffarabad, and other places destroyed. You have been informed of it in several of the briefings that we've had. Thereafter, its military capabilities were significantly degraded by us, and key air bases effectively put out of action. If the Pakistani FM wishes to project these as achievement, obviously he is welcome to do so. Where India is concerned, our stand was very clear and consistent from the start. We would target terrorist infrastructure operating out of Pakistan. If the Pakistani military stayed out, there would be no problem. If they fired on us, we would respond suitably. Till the night of 9th May, Pakistan was threatening India with a massive assault. Once their attempt failed on 10th May morning, and they received a devastating Indian counter-response, their tune changed, and their DGMO eventually reached out to us. I just referred to the timings, etc., as to when they reached out. In essence, India's position remained the same. Pakistan's position changed on 10th May morning after its air bases were effectively put out of action. All you have to do is to look at who called who to negotiate the terms of the cessation of firing. By the way, we are living in a day and age where you have satellite pictures available commercially. I urge you to look at the satellite pictures of the sites which Pakistan says or claims to have attacked in India. Contrast it with the sites and places which we successfully targeted and destroyed. That will give you a clear answer. Claiming victory is an old habit. 1975 की बात यही थी, 71 की बात यही रही, 1999 करगिल वॉर में भी यही राग आलापा। तो पाकिस्तान का तो पुराना ये उनका ढोल बजाने का है, जो रवैया है, आलापने का रवैया है, ढोल बहुत पुराना है। परस्त हो जाओ लेकिन ढोल बजाओ। Rishabh, you also had a question regarding on that. I think there are 2-3 things there. There's talk of some. We saw some social media post about Egyptian, American aircraft, etc. But those questions are for them to answer, not for us. But on the nuclear, in the defense briefing, if you remember, our side made things very clear as to what was the target, etc. As far as your particular question, I think the Pak foreign minister also has made some comments on that. Manas, about nuclear issue that you pointed out. See, the military action from our side was entirely in the conventional domain. This was also made very clear in the defense briefing yesterday. There were some questions also which were asked. There were some reports, however, that Pakistan National Command Authority will meet on 10th May, which we saw, but this was later denied by them. Pakistan FM has himself denied the nuclear angle on record. So, Rishabh, that also answers your question. As you know, India has a firm stance that it will not give in to nuclear blackmail or allow cross-border terrorism to be conducted invoking it. In conversations with various countries, we have also cautioned that their subscribing to such scenarios could hurt them in their own region. Can we take more questions? Okay. There.
Good evening, sir. Dhairy from Sputnik, sir. Just a clarification. Secretary Marco Rubio tweeted that India and Pakistan had agreed to ceasefire as well as start talks on a broad range of issues at a neutral site. So would it be possible to get a clarification on this if we agreed to that? And sir, the second question is about India-US trade talks. India has formally notified the WTO proposing retaliatory tariffs against select US imports over Washington's tariffs on steel and aluminum imports. Would it be possible to get a clarification on this? And does it affect India's negotiating position vis-a-vis the bilateral trade agreement? Thank you.
Okay, Smita.
Smita Sharma here. I mean, the US State Department actually in the press statement of 10th May, it was in bold and headline that mentioned US brokered ceasefire between India and Pakistan. I'm just trying to understand if New Delhi actually rejected it outrightly, raised it with Washington DC then, that this framing was incorrect, or is it only now that India is making it clear that there was no US role in it? And just a quick question on whether there's any update on PK Sahu, the BSF constable, who has been in Pakistan captivity for more than 20 days now.
Suhasini.
Mr. Jaiswal, this is Suhasini Haider from The Hindu. In continuation to Smita's question about whether India has raised with the US these clearly what you are calling false statements made by US President Donald Trump, that India did not broker, the US did not broker a ceasefire, that trade was not discussed. These are all things that have been said now on the record in camera. So have you raised this at any level? And similarly, yesterday at the MOD briefing, we heard them speak about the Chinese equipment, hardware support to Pakistan. I wanted to ask if this is something that is going to be taken up with China in terms of India and China's own bilateral relationship. So both of them, are these two things going to have any impact on India's relations with either the US or China?
Neeraj.
Sir, Neeraj, who News 18. सर नीरज हूँ न्यूज 18 इंडिया से। आपने कहा कि कई अमेरिकी नेताओं के बाद मिलिट्री जो कार्रवाई चल रही थी भारत की, उस दौरान बातचीत हुई। प्रधानमंत्री नरेंद्र मोदी से किस अमेरिकी नेता की बातचीत हुई? क्योंकि मीडिया रिपोर्ट में आया है कि अमेरिकी उपराष्ट्रपति जेडी वांस ने उनसे बातचीत भी किया और ये भी अनुरोध किया था कि वो अपनी मिलिट्री कार्रवाई को थोड़ा कम करें, डी-एस्केलेट करें। और दूसरा सवाल यह है कि जब भारत ऑपरेशन सिंदूर में चल रहा था पाकिस्तान के खिलाफ, आतंकवाद के खिलाफ माफ कीजिएगा, तो बांग्लादेश में अवामी लीग पर बैन लगा दिया वहां की सरकार ने। भारत इसको कैसे देख रहा?
Okay, first regarding your question about Secretary Rubio's comments, on that I have already spoken. I have told you how the understanding between India and Pakistan was bilaterally reached and what was the conversation that we had with other countries. On trade matters, I do understand that there is a proposal which has been made in Geneva. It has been made very recently, so I don't have further details on that, but for sure we'll update you with the matter as we progress with those negotiations. Smita, again, I have already answered those questions of yours when I talked about, the question of ceasefire as to who decided, what were the terms, when it happened, etc. So I would urge you to look at those comments of mine. I've told you that we have conveyed our position. I conveyed our position here on record, so I will request you to look at that. On the matter of PK Sahu, I don't have an update, so possibly we'll get you an update, but these are matters which pertain to the Ministry of Defense and they're looking into it. Again, Suhasini, on ceasefire, I've made India's position very clear, where we stand. So I would urge you to look at my comments. On the other question that you had, and possibly it had come up in the conversation or the press conference yesterday, there we have, I would say that we have obviously taken note of this. I direct your attention to the comments in the defense briefing about the extent of their effectiveness or otherwise. नीरज, आपके दो सवाल। प्रधानमंत्री की बात अमेरिका के उपराष्ट्रपति जेडी वांस से हुई थी और उस दरमियान जो बातचीत हुई थी दोनों नेताओं के बीच में, उसके आपको अवगत भी कराया गया है। जहां तक अवामी लीग की बात है, the ban on the Awami League without due process is a concerning development. As a democracy, India is naturally concerned at curtailment of democratic freedoms and shrinking political space. We strongly support the early holding of free, fair and inclusive elections in Bangladesh. जो अवामी लीग पे बैन लगा है वो एक चिंता का विषय है। एक जो लोकतांत्रिक प्रणाली में एक तरीका होता है सब काम करने का, वो ड्यू प्रोसेस को दरकिनार करके किया गया है। एक लोकतंत्र के रूप में भारत जो वहाँ पर लोकतांत्रिक आज़ादी को रोका जा रहा है और जो वहाँ पर राजनीतिक गतिविधियों के लिए जो दायरा है वो कम हो रहा है, इसको लेके हम लोग चिंतित हैं। और साथ में हमारा ये मानना है, हमारा ये आह्वान है कि बांग्लादेश में जल्द से जल्द एक निष्पक्ष और समावेशी चुनाव कराया जाए। Can we then go? Manish.
सर, मैं मनीष झा हूँ, TV9 भारतवर्ष से। पिछले दिनों हमने एक और कैरेक्टर देखा, वो था तुर्की का रोल। जिस तरीके से टर्की के ड्रोन पाकिस्तान ने इस्तेमाल किए, इसके अलावा टर्की ने लगातार इस मामले में पाकिस्तान का सपोर्ट किया। जब हम आतंकवाद के खिलाफ लड़ाई लड़ रहे हैं और टर्की उस समय पाकिस्तान के साथ है, जबकि आपको याद होगा 9/11 के टाइम में अमेरिका का डायलॉग था कि अगर आप हमारे साथ नहीं हैं तो आप आतंकियों के साथ हैं। तो टर्की के मामले में भारत की अब नीति क्या रहने वाली है?
देखिए, जो सवाल का जवाब दे दिया गया उसको ना पूछे, कोई नया सवाल हो तो बताएं। यशी।
This is Yeshi Seli from Business India. Are there any leads of the terrorists who attacked on the 22nd of April? And 3 terrorists were neutralized in Shopian today. Do they have any links with the terror attack of the 22nd? And in addition, when are the next DGMO talks likely to be?
एक मिनट। बताइए
सर। ब्रह्म प्रकाश हूँ न्यूज़ इंडिया से। मेरा सवाल है कि जिस तरह से ऑपरेशन सिंदूर के दौरान जो हमारे मित्र देशों की भूमिका रही, उसको लेकर खासतौर से अमेरिका की भूमिका ये देखा गया है कि भारत और पाकिस्तान को एक ही तराजू में बराबर तौला गया है, ये माना जा रहा है। क्या जिस तरह से भारत कहता रहा है, अमेरिका कहता रहा है कि दोनों क्लोज पार्टनर है, क्या भारत की डिप्लोमेसी को एक तरह से अमेरिका की तरफ से झटका लगा है? भारत इस पर दोबारा विचार करेगा? क्योंकि जिस तरह से रुख रहा है अमेरिका का, ये माना जा रहा है, सीधे शब्दों में कहें कि अमेरिका ने धोखा दिया इस पूरे मामले में। क्या कह रहे हैं?
मधुरेंद्र।
सर, मधुरेंद्र, मैं न्यूज़ नेशन से। यह स्पष्ट है कि चीन और तुर्की के हथियार भारत के खिलाफ इस्तेमाल किए गए, और इसी संदर्भ में मैं जानना चाहता हूं कि डिफेंस इंटेलिजेंस एजेंसी की जो आज ब्रीफिंग हुई है, क्या उसमें डिफेंस अटैचे चीन के और तुर्की के बुलाए गए थे? क्या बुलाए जाने पर उन्होंने अटेंड किया? दूसरा सवाल मेरा यह है कि हमने एक डिटरेंट क्रिएट किया है कि एनी एक्ट ऑफ टेरर विल बी एक्ट ऑफ वॉर, तो क्या उसको डिफाइन कर सकते हैं कि क्या आगे होने वाला कोई भी भारत पर पाकिस्तान की तरफ से या पाकिस्तान प्रायोजित आतंक की तरफ से हमला सीधे तौर पर कार्रवाई के तौर पे पाकिस्तान पर वॉर के तौर पे देखा जाएगा? हम सीधे युद्ध थोपेंगे या युद्ध करेंगे पाकिस्तान से?
मनीष जी, पहले तुर्की को लेके काफ़ी सारे सवाल थे। देखिए, सुहासिनी के सवाल के जवाब में मैंने बताया था कि हमारा क्या नज़रिया है, और तुर्की को लेके और चीन के लेके उनके जो वेपन्स वगैरह को लेके जो डिफेंस की ब्रीफिंग में भी खुलासा किया गया। तो मैं कहूँगा कि आप जो वहाँ पर बताया गया बात, उस पर ध्यान केंद्रित करें। जहाँ तक हम लोग का सवाल है, हम लोग ने बताया कि हम लोगों ने इन गतिविधियों को नोट किया है, और साथ ही में जो कमेंट्स डिफेंस ब्रीफिंग में दिया गया था इन चीज़ों के बारे में, उस पर मैं आपका ध्यान आकर्षित कराना चाहता हूं। और साथ ही साथ उन्होंने इसकी इफ़ेक्टिवनेस जो कितना पुरजोर रहा उसके बारे में या नहीं रहा उसके बारे में उन्होंने बात किया था। Yeshi, the investigations are on, so we'll have to wait for the progress. Obviously, when we make progress, we'll keep you updated. DGMO talks, I understand, had happened yesterday, and many of you were informed of the developments and the discussion that had happened. The rest, as and when the next DGMO level talks happen, you will be kept informed of it. ब्रह्म प्रकाश जी, आपने जो बात की हाइफिनेशन की बात की कि एक तरीके से भारत पाकिस्तान दोनों साथ में बंध गए, एक हाइफिनेशन हो गया, तो उस पर हम लोग का यह मानना है कि इट इज़ क्वाइट द रिवर्स. देयर इज़ widespread understanding in the world that Indian tourists were the victims of terror at Pahalgam, and that the epicenter of terrorism is across the border in Pakistan. A number of foreign leaders, बहुत सारे विदेशी जो नेतागण हैं, उनसे जो हमारी बातचीत हुई उसमें उन्होंने माना कि भारत को अपने को डिफेंड करने का उसका हक है और अपने लोगों को बचाने का, उसकी सुरक्षा का प्रदान करने का उनको हक है. मैं आपका ध्यान यूएन सिक्योरिटी काउंसिल का जो रेजोल्यूशन है, प्रेस स्टेटमेंट यूएन सिक्योरिटी काउंसिल ने 25 अप्रैल को जो अपनाया था, कहूँगा वो प्रेस स्टेटमेंट बड़ा क्लियरली ये बताता है, मैं कोट कर रहा हूँ, देयर इज़ नीड टू अपहोल्ड परपरेटर्स, ऑर्गेनाइजर्स, फाइनेंसर्स and sponsors of this reprehensible act of terrorism accountable and bring them to justice. It stressed that those responsible for this killing should be held accountable. तो इससे आप जो हाइफिनेशन की बात कर रहे हैं ना, उसके पूरे ही विपरीत लोगों ने माना कि एक देश है जो आतंकवाद को बढ़ावा देता है, इंडस्ट्रियल स्केल पर आतंकवाद पैदा करता है और उनके खिलाफ सख्त से सख्त कार्रवाई होनी चाहिए।
अमेरिका ने भारत को धोखा दिया इस पूरे मामले में।
अमेरिका, जहाँ तक अमेरिका और अन्य देशों के बारे में हम लोगों ने अपना पक्ष आपके सामने रखा है। वी हैव श्रीधर, सॉरी, एक मिनट, ये इनका मधुरेंद्र का सवाल रह गया था। मधुरेंद्र, देखिए, तुर्की और चीन के अस्त्र के बारे में हमने अभी जवाब दे दिया है आपको, और जहाँ तक एक्ट ऑफ टेरर की बात है, हमारे तरफ से हमारे लीडरशिप के लेवल पे कहा जा रहा है कि क्रॉस बॉर्डर टेररिज्म का जहाँ सवाल है, हमारा ज़ीरो टॉलरेंस रहेगा। जब भी कोई इस प्रकार का घटना होता है तो हम उसका पुरजोर जवाब देंगे। उस डिफेंस अटैचे को बुलाया गया, उसकी मीटिंग हुई थी, उन्हें बुलाया गया था। कौन कौन वहाँ आए थे इसके बारे में मेरी संज्ञान नहीं है, मैं आपको इसके बारे में अवगत कराऊंगा। क्या मैंने कहा ना कि हमारे जो अभी प्रधानमंत्री के भाषण में आपने देखा होगा किस प्रकार का बयान था क्रॉस बॉर्डर टेररिज्म को लेके, और आतंकवाद से लड़ने के लिए जो हमारा प्रण है, जो हमारा नीति है, उसके बारे में खुलासा किया गया था, वो नीति रहेगा।
So, Sridhar from the Asian Age and Techno Chronicle. 3 months back, when PM Modi visited the US, there was a joint statement in which the US specifically called out these Pakistan-based terror organizations. And, there was a widespread satisfaction in India at that point of time. But strangely, there was absolutely no reference to terror or Pakistan, that Pakistan needs to dismantle this terrorist infrastructure in the statements of President Trump. I mean, it was as if, two siblings are fighting, and, the US has stepped in to end it. There was absolutely no reference to Pakistan sponsoring terrorism. Are you a bit shocked at that why there has been such a dramatic change in the past 3 months? And a small question, could we have a list of the civilian casualties in Operation Sindoor? We have got some figures from the military side on the military casualties. What about the civilian casualties? Are you going to reveal that? Thank you, sir.
Rita?
Vinita from the Asian Age Deccan Chronicle. Randirji, we have reached a ceasefire situation, but why are we seeing firing at the border and drone activities? Airlines had to start their function, but again shut down at 5 airports yesterday night. Just an idea that is everything okay at the borders, or are we still fighting a battle there?
Geeta?
Geeta Mohan from India Today. Just wanted to know again about the dehyphenation and hyphenation question. India invested diplomatically for years in the dehyphenation of India-Pakistan, not just with the world, but particularly with the United States of America, and we've seen them dehyphenate. And now we're seeing President Trump hyphenate India-Pakistan, speak of them in the same breath, talk about them being great countries. Is India raising this matter with the United States of America, reminding them of 9/11 and Osama bin Laden?
Okay, Reza?
Reza from Hindustan Times. Just a quick question on President Putin's offer for direct talks with Ukraine. Do we have a position on that?
Okay. You talked about fight against terrorism. You saw what the UN Security Council came up with a statement. The UN Security Council consists of 5 permanent members and 10 non-permanent members. It came out with a very strong condemnation. The United States partnership with the United States as far as security, defense continues. It will continue to be, continue to grow and continue to deepen. Vinita, you had a question about drones, etc. These are questions that you will have to, when the MOD briefing happens, possibly they will give you. These are questions to be answered by. I don't have any particular update on it. Geeta. of being hyphenated, quite the reverse is happening, because people are realizing that here is a terrorism and they need to be suitably taken to task. The conversation that we have had with leaders across the world, with countries, they have all stood with India. Across the world, they also realize that has the right to respond, to take action.
तर अणुबॉम्बची धमकी सहन केली जाणार नाही. ऑपरेशन सिंदूरमुळे पाकिस्तानचं अतोनात नुकसान झालं. पहलगाम हल्ल्याची जबाबदारी TRFनं स्वीकारली आहे, अशी माहिती या परराष्ट्र मंत्रालयाच्या पत्रकार परिषदेमध्ये देण्यात आली. दहशतवाद्यांचे पाकसोबत असल्याचे पुरावे आमच्याकडे आहेत, असं देखील परराष्ट्र मंत्रालयाचं म्हणणं आहे. पहलगाम हल्ल्याच्या पुराव्याबाबत लवकरच कळवू, असं देखील परराष्ट्र मंत्रालयानं म्हटलंय. हल्ल्यानंतरही पाकिस्तानकडून जल्लोष सुरू होता, असं देखील त्यांनी म्हटलंय. अणुबॉम्बची धमकी सहन केली जाणार नाही, हे देखील पुन्हा एकदा या पत्रकार परिषदेमध्ये सांगण्यात आलं. मोदी आणि अमेरिकेचे उपराष्ट्राध्यक्षांसोबत चर्चा झाल्याचं देखील त्यांनी म्हटलंय. बांगलादेशमध्ये लवकरात लवकर निष्पक्ष निवडणुका